Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, do you want me to just get into it then?
Yeah. So go ahead and just tell us a little bit about your brand, I guess, to start with.
Cool. So Publish Brand is a cut and sew apparel brand. We've been around since about 2009. We're really known for our joggers, and that was kind of our big hit. And we've still been producing them. We've watched how 1,000 other brands have made their own joggers. We, interestingly enough, actually have the trademark on jogger pants. Maybe not just joggers in general. We couldn't get that trademark.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so we've always just been a cut and sew brand. We've had a lot of different issues where we sit in this weird little pricing valley where we're not like too expensive to be high end and we're not cheap enough to be fast fashion. But our main modal of design and production is cut and sew, available materials, and just design innovation. So a lot of the other brands, they'll use blanks. A lot of the other brands will they'll order out. We have one factory out of China, so we don't have multiple sourcing.
Okay.
That's pretty much what we do, and we kind of sit in this weird little valley where it's about lifestyle, it's about positioning, it's about streetwear, it's about menswear, fashion items, just regular cut sew. We do regular drops, so we do regular seasonal drops. We do capsule drops. Within that, in 2019, we have 16 drops planned. So there's probably a few more that'll be added. So a lot of the business is built off of collaborations and partnerships.
Real quick, you're using the word drops, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not that familiar with that word. Is that like comparative to seasons, would you say?
Kind of.
Okay.
For example, our seasonal drops or releases will be coming for spring every month.
I see. Okay.
In the past, we've done just the standard seasonal, so we'll have the 4 seasons and whatever collaborations we have within there. So we call those capsules. If it's a smaller collaboration with just a few units, the standard seasonal drops or standard releases, you just call them seasonal.
Okay.
Then we also have our persistent product or our evergreen product that is always available. So we do innovate within that, but we classify that as the bottoms program or the index program. There's a bunch of different design language depending on each brand, and it usually takes a few months to get up to speed with what a brand is doing if they're not educating their consumer correctly. But yeah, I mean, it's always tough. Like, we don't have like the Lacoste polo that has been the same since 1963.
Okay.
But we do have innovations within our bottoms programs, and we have about, I think, 5 or 6 fits within that bottoms program. So we'll do relax, slim, plastic, ankle, and I think there's one more in there somewhere.
Okay. And then do you mind talking about your position and like what your job responsibilities are?
Yeah, my job responsibilities are kind of everything. My title just recently, because I was going untitled for about a year.
Okay.
Brand director.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
But I've filled in a lot of roles. I started off as the director of digital marketing, and quite quickly I realized that we needed more.
Okay.
So my background is actually I've owned an art gallery.
Wow.
I've toured on a bunch of music tours. I was on the road for about 3 years straight. I worked for a nonprofit as a director of marketing, and then I worked at another action sports brand where I had about 4 desks in that company, meaning I had no title. So I'm really comfortable being untitled.
Yeah.
As more of an overseer, and my methodology is I work at the higher levels and the lower levels. I kind of avoid the middle. So I think some guys term it like the clouds in the dirt. So getting down to the actual things done, but also doing the higher concept stuff that has a longer calendar, longer timeline.
Okay. Do you mind elaborating a little bit on digital marketing? Is that specifically like social media, or does it include advertising, or how would you describe that to someone just starting out?
Yeah, so digital marketing, there's breakdowns within that. But for us, our digital marketing is just how we place our ads. It's something that's new to this brand. It's not new to me, but we do our digital marketing through social ads, so ads through social media, ads through Google. Up until recently, 100% of our traffic has always been organic, meaning someone knows the brand, they are familiar with the brand, and they just go into Google and search publishbrand.com or publish brand, and then they find us. So it's really one of those things that is just able to crack wide open because we've never really done ads before. We've only had a completely organic following, and it really allowed us to leverage that as opposed to some of these brands that come in and immediately go for the advertising spending. And a lot of their investment into digital marketing is trying to get people to become aware of who they are. So luckily, when I stepped into the role about a year ago, they'd never touched it. So it's something that wasn't really on their plate. It was just all organic relationships. It was all just built through word of mouth. And to be able to do advertising on a global scale at this time, just it really helped us to have that organic following built in.
Huh. And I have to ask, do you guys only sell online directly on your e-commerce store, or did you also wholesale to retail stores?
We primarily originally only sold to retail stores.
Okay,
So
I see. Yeah.
the online store is relatively new,
Oh, okay.
and it wasn't the online store wasn't built to be an online store. So there's a lot of learning curve there where the website originally was just for a branding opportunity, and if someone wanted to get our product, like probably 3 or 4 years ago, they would have to go to the store and find it, or go to another online retailer and find it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. You talked a little bit about your background, and a lot of my students are always asking me about educational background because they're at that crossroads where should they pursue college, should they transfer to get a bachelor's degree? I don't know. So I always like asking guest speakers, what's your educational background, if you don't mind sharing?
I am the anomaly. I started off in business school, and I was up at the UC Berkeley, and I was doing international business, and I really couldn't jive with a lot of my classmates because I was a kid from Southern California, Orange County, and dealing with a lot of guys who were probably 5 or 6 years older than me and talking about business, and it just wasn't fun. There was no heart to it. So I kind of migrated through a bunch of the UCs, and I ended up at UCI, and I have a degree in studio art management with photography as a minor, and I also simultaneously got a degree in business.
Oh, cool.
So I gamed the system a little bit through the UCs where I was able to get 2 degrees for the price of 1.
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of units. So I did about 4.5 years in the UCs. And I also, during my summers, even my summers in high school, I was at the junior colleges. So I've been to IVC, I've been to SAC, I've been to Golden West, and what was the other one? There's other ones.
Okay,
Most
cool. Yeah.
PhD around Orange County I've been to, and usually I would just pick a class that interests me.
Okay.
So that was the big thing, because when I was at the UCs, they would kind of mandate like what course load you wanted to take. They would mandate exactly which courses to take in which order,
Yeah.
and that kind of drowned out that interest for me.
Okay. Interesting.
The best thing for me was to pursue the professors that I liked, to pursue the subject matter that I liked, and to find out how to make it work.
Cool. It's kind of neat that you've worn a lot of hats. Maybe you could give advice to students about like what skills would you suggest that they try to obtain while they're still in college? Maybe like computer skills, or I don't know, whatever you think.
Communication.
Okay.
That's what I always lead with. Like, that's the biggest problem I've seen in almost any enterprise I've been with, whether it be my own business, whether it be dealing with new CEOs, whether it be dealing with companies that have been around for 30 or 40 years. It's a unique skill to find someone, or a unique find to discover someone that is skilled in communication.
Okay.
Meaning how to communicate properly via email, how to conceptualize a thought and get it through into an articulated idea, and even how to communicate readily back and forth and have a sensitivity to what other departments need. A big issue within fashion, with anything creative, is communicating deadlines, communicating where product is, maintaining a calendar, and it's insane how much time gets spent on guessing on where a product is, when it's going to arrive, if it'll be there for the photo shoot, if it'll be available for the release, and then making sure that all those dates come together as one. So it's really just I did a speech probably about a year ago saying that communication is the secret to life.
Okay.
There's probably this in there.
Awesome.
If you can communicate your thoughts, your feelings, your ideas, you've got a leg up on 95% of the people I've ever met.
Yeah, no, it's really good advice, actually. Yeah. And I don't want to take too much of your time, but usually I end on, do you have advice for people just starting out in the industry at all you might share?
Yeah, explore and be open.
Cool.
Explore different things. Like, I came into this industry kind of by accident. Action sports was my second job out of college. I worked in a warehouse doing automotive stuff for a while. But every role I've ever been in, I've always made it a point to learn from it. For example, my unique skill within e-commerce is I came from the automotive industry, my first job out of college, and I saw that there was a lot of movement away from e-commerce, or movement toward e-commerce, and away from the local retailers. And anyone that is in my age demographic might remember that there used to be these things called speed shops, where you'd go and grab a carburetor, you'd go grab parts for your vehicle, and they were very local. It was local knowledge. But the beauty of those was it was expert knowledge. So you can go in and ask questions and find out about how to customize your vehicle. But once everyone started buying online because it was cheaper, the manufacturers had a lot of trouble, and they did a lot of strategy to try to keep those local retailers in business, but they couldn't. And so as a result, the entire industry suffered. The local knowledge disappeared. Guys stopped customizing their vehicles. Everything went online. Even though it was cheaper, no one had the confidence to do the work themselves anymore. So that resource completely disappeared. So that's one of those things that we are very wary of, because a big problem within fashion, especially e-commerce, and particularly if you have a global brand, is trying to get people to feel the product.
Yeah.
That's the big part. That's the big shopping experience, the feel and the fit.
Yeah.
And if we can't simulate that. There's no way to simulate that. So if a lot of these retailers go away, most of fashion is based off of idea. And one of the numbers that I pay particular attention to is our return rate. I know that brick and mortar retailers, their return rate hovers around 6 to 8%.
Okay.
E-commerce standard is about 18 to 20%.
Okay.
So whatever we can do to bridge that, I mean, that's our big concept, is to imagine how to communicate how a product fits, how a product feels, whether it be through either sending little swatch samples of fabric, or to illustrate that through our imagery, like our photography, and give more information than needed. So if anyone does have any questions, and if they're aware of their particular sizing, their waist, their inseam, we can give them an idea of how it will fit. So that comes down to communication. It's really like just expanding on the idea of what I've seen in different industries and learning from those and applying it to this industry. Because there's a lot of growth in fashion. There's a lot of potential, but there's still a lot of fear, I would say, from the manufacturer's standpoint on how to bridge that gap, and how to compete with the giant retailers like Amazon, but also how to maintain our presence as a unique creative within the industry.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Actually, your return rate sounds low to me. I had one store, they don't have retail stores. They're strictly e-commerce. They're more expensive. They sell like Marc Jacobs and designer ends like that. And I believe they do free returns. So I think girls buy stuff to try it on. And they said their average return rate was 70%. It's like, oh my gosh. But I think that's part of their business, is to get, the buyer to buy 5 outfits, keep 2, return 3. I don't know. I'm not sure, but
No, there are definitely business models that are built on having a high return rate.
yeah, it must be. Yeah.
I know a few girls that buy those. I think it's called FabFitFun.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The monthly subscription box, and you get a 20% discount if you keep all 5 items.
Okay, yeah.
They have a personal concierge, but that kind of explores what the industry is doing, how best to mimic the ability to walk into a store and try it on.
Mm-hmm.
That's the holy grail. If we like, I even have a suit that was sent to me last week. It's a bunch of little dots where if I take a selfie with it, it'll do the measurements based on the dots. And I can get garments custom made. And when we priced them out, like the denim was competitive with ours. And I don't trust that the denim is well crafted.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna that's a unique concept that we're exploring to see if there's any viability within that.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's neat.
Yeah, but return rates definitely changed. I mean, that's just going off of industry standard of what I've heard. I know that it really depends on the retailer, the price point. I doubt that fast fashion retailers have a higher return rate because most of the time people say, hey, it's $10, $20, I'm going to keep it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of data within that. There's a lot of ways to get overwhelmed on how to interpret the data and how to act on it. And the best that we do is always drill down to what's our core DNA, what's important to us, what messaging do we pull, how do we engage with the customers, how do we make space for their requests without being condescending or anything, but also the bottom line, you can't do free returns on a lot of things because we have a lot of international guys. So just customs fees get us a lot of the time. But the business side of it definitely does get in the way with the creative side sometimes. But if you pay attention to it carefully, it does help direct your actual product.
Cool. Well, Sean, thank you so much for spending the time to just briefly talk to my class. Yeah, and I'd love to stay in touch with you too and bring over some students in person, maybe sometime in February or March if there's a good time for you. Yeah.
Absolutely. We probably later February, we have a couple of trade shows, but this year for us particularly, we're trying something new. We're trying a lot of things new.
Oh, cool.
But our big project is to stop listening to a lot of our critics, stop listening to a lot of the industry, and actually get back to what's important to us.
Cool.
When I started talking to a lot of the staff here, the design team, I realized how skilled everyone is, but just how unskilled they believe they are when compared to other people within the industry. They think we're not successful because we don't have a Yeezy collab. They think we're unsuccessful because we don't have a lot of editorial written about us. But it's really just about the personality and our voice and our confidence within our product.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing a lot of things to address that. We're doing a lot of things to step through the fear, so to speak, that a lot of people have when they're about to create something and they hesitate for fear of criticism, for fear of commentary from parents, family, friends. And we're really just addressing how that goes into our namesake. Cool. Publish is one of those things that if you notice really carefully, that I've noticed really when I pay attention really carefully, it exists before you post on WordPress, before you post on most blogs. It's that little button that you push right after you've edited, before you make something live. So we're really exploring that concept as well because it's ingrained into our DNA. I don't care if anyone made the decision to name the brand Publish subconsciously, but it's there. So I'm just kind of exploiting those subconscious decisions that we've made in either design, in branding, in pricing, and in colors. I'm just exploiting that, not in a negative way, usually exploiting, but expanding on that in a way where we can actually talk about it more and connect, make more connection points with our audience.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's so neat. Yeah. I feel
that's what I do.
Yeah.
That's what I'm paid.
That's so good. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, I really appreciate it. So I'm excited to
welcome.
come visit your workspace. I like your background. You're board on the back. It's so neat.
the only quiet spot in our office.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and like a general day for us, like we're touching 1,000 different things. Right now, we're doing email migrations. What you're seeing in the back, this is kind of like our secret lab.
Oh, cool. Nice.
We have a bunch of our lines up there. We have our summer collection up there that's falling down. Another collab that's ready to go. I think we just started shipping that. But behind me is a lot of our partnerships that we're exploring. U.S. Army, Prince Tennis, some older brands, and then even down below is a lot of product that is still being worked on. But yeah, if you guys come by, we can show you everything. We kind of have it separated with product that's live, product that's still in development, and even some secret stuff that we probably would need NDAs for.
Yeah, cool. That sounds